Well, thank you for tuning into another CSE listed issuer update. I'm Anil Mall representing the CSE, and today we are catching up with Jeff Ackert. And Jeff is the president CEO of Cascade Copper Corp, of course, on the CSE under the symbol CASC. Jeff, I hope you're well.
Yes, Anil, I am. Thank you very much. Hope all is well with you this year.
Things have been on a busy start in 2024, and it looks like it's been the same for you and your team. Jeff, the last time we spoke, the company had just listed in April. It was July when we took some time and recorded a newly listed clip for the company. For our viewers that might not be familiar with what the company does, could you maybe recap and give us another introduction to Cascade Copper?
Yeah, for sure, Anil. So as you mentioned, we listed early last year. It was in April, and we did a IPO financing. It was about $1 million, and that went towards our exploration programs for the summer, and of course a bit of G&A as well. And our focus as an exploration company is basically just copper. Really, really like copper, and we like copper in Canada. And so we picked up quite a number of projects in British Columbia, porphyry systems, which is, we like the big tonnage potential of these systems. And we've also done another two acquisitions actually this year. So we can talk about those as we go forward.
Pardon me if your little team has been very busy in 2023 and 2024. There's been a lot happening. And like you said, on listing, there was a couple of projects. So let's dial it back to 2023. Maybe what we'll do is we'll go through each individual project because you currently have 5 under your portfolio. We'll go through each one. Why don't you provide us with a little bit of a summary on 2023 and where we're headed in 2024 with these projects?
Sure. I think what we'll do is maybe kind of give you an overall idea of where our projects are, and then I'll kind of work on each one and tell you a little bit about the successes we had during the year. So as I mentioned, British Columbia, we really, really like BC. Our qualifying project was located in British Columbia. It's called Rogers Creek. That's the one that is really drill ready to go. We've had, luckily, a lot of work that's been done in the past when we inherited the project through a deal with TalkVan. We got all the data with the project, which was fantastic. But what we did with that data was quite interesting, and this is something that we've been trying to do with all our projects, is assimilate all the data into a very concise and proper database, and then put all of that information into a three-dimensional modeling system. And really what that does is it kind of takes a lot of the guesswork out of your exploration going forward. So we saw the success we had with doing this with Rogers Creek. So we're kind of working our way through our projects and doing the same thing. But as far as Rogers Creek is concerned, we're basically ready to go drilling there. We've got some fantastic looking targets, IP chargeability, all of that kind of thing. And surface work has been done in the past as well. Now, what we have done is we've applied for a permit for drilling. And unfortunately, BC is, because they've been so busy, they've kind of lagged back. They've taken a bit of time to get those permits in place. So we were hoping we'd have something done this year, but because of the permitting, it's sort of been put forward to 2024, and we can talk about that later. Our next door project from Rogers Creek is something called Fire Mountain. Fire Mountain is basically brand new. Similar kind of area, similar geology, similar type of deposit as we have at Rogers Creek. So in other words, it's a porphyry system, but it's never been drilled. It's one of these victims or casualties of climate change, if you want to call it that. It's basically the snow cap has disappeared. It's exposed some fantastic looking geology, and we're able to get in there and do some sampling, on the ground work, and have some fantastic numbers coming out of that. So we want to get going in the new year with some more work on the ground there.
On Fire Mountain, I also noticed you guys have engaged with the First Nations groups in that region as well.
Yes, good point. And that's all part of the first things you want to do basically is go in and engage with the First Nations, identify who they are, get and sit down with them and talk with them and let them know that you're serious about looking after the environment, looking after their best interests. And what we've done actually, and I think it's the trend now, is that a lot of people going in and offering an equity position in the project or in the company that's developing, or at least exploring and then potentially developing these projects. And we've got some really good response from that approach. So both Rogers Creek and at First Mountain, we've done that. We've engaged with First Nations and had some very, very good response from that. So thanks for reminding me about that. That's very important.
Hey, no worries. I always feel it's an important aspect that you definitely should highlight, because those, maintaining those relationships is definitely a concern there, right? So, well, let's move on to Bendor Gold then.
Sure. Yeah. So the Braylarn deposit is very close to our Bendor, and Talisker has done quite a good job and putting together a small resource, 1.6 million ounces. And our Bendor project is kind of the same thing. It's almost a mirror image, structurally controlled quartz veining and gold systems and that kind of thing. And it looks very, very good. Now, in 2023, what we did at Bendor was, again, compile the historic data. We did some of our own work. We did some LIDAR and some airborne geophysics. So we've got a good base now to get in and do some work. Now, if we move a little further away from that belt on the western side, we did some new acquisitions. And the one I'm quite excited about is one called Copper Plateau. And it's over in the Quesnel terrain, close to the Copper Mountain deposit that Habea just purchased. Also, Kodiak Copper is very close nearby. And our project is situated almost halfway between Princeton and Penticton. Very good area. Historic work has been done there as well. So basically, same thing. We've got as much of the historic data as we could. We brought it into our database, starting to do the three-dimensional inversions of the IP and the geophysics, the magnetics on surface. And the big thing about this one is we've got about 90 historic drill holes. And the holes, we've got the data from it. It's not a complete database of all the assays. In the early days, it didn't assay for copper for gold or silver, only copper, and occasionally moly. And what we found in this deposit from our research and putting it all together is there's quite a significant moly or molybdenum component to this deposit. Again, it's a porphyry system, has potential to, be large tonnage. So we're targeting on this one probably at least 200 million tons, maybe a copper equivalent grade of, somewhere north of 0.25 to 0.3% copper equivalent. So it could be a real company maker if we can get in and prove that up. So again, 2024. And then finally, I'd like to just mention, we did pick up a project in Ontario. And one of the reasons for that was not only was it a great looking copper deposit, or copper prospect, so to speak, but it also was an area where we thought that we could do our permitting quickly. And it seems to be the case. BC, as I mentioned, it's lagging because of so much activity. But in Ontario, we think we can get the permits turned around very quickly. So at Centerfire, which is the Ontario project, it's a copper VMS style. It's a bit different than the porphyry system. So typically in these areas, what you see are smaller tonnages, but higher grades. At the end of the day, it's a contained number of pounds of copper we're looking for. So we see some very, very good potential there. So that is sort of our package.
And so moving into 2024, I know you summarized on each of these projects what was to be expected. I can't wait to see what you and your team have in store. 7 months ago when we spoke, you had just listed, you now have 5 projects focused in British Columbia, have a project in Ontario. Tell us a little bit about, any other milestones that you're able to talk about that our viewers can expect.
Yeah, well, I think it's going forward. I think right now we've got a very, very good base. We've got our technical stuff in order. We've got some work done in the field in 2023. Now we can sort of hit the ground running with targeting, as I mentioned, Rogers Creek, drilling this year for sure. We also want to drill at Copper Plateau. That's the one with the potential for a couple of 100 million tons from what we've seen so far. And then even over on Centerfire in Ontario. So those would be the milestones for us that are significant for our investors and potential investors, is the chance of drilling and the chance of some good discovery. Ideally, we'll get to the markets again this year and do a bit of financing. Ideally, we'd probably take a little bit of flow through as well. It seems to be readily available these days. And then, of course, copper and moly are critical metals, so that kind of helps the investor make a good decision on where to put their money. So that's the big thing is doing some drilling. But still, there's a lot of groundwork that we could be doing on some of the other projects. We really like the technology of hyperspectral analysis, and this is something we've been doing on all of our projects as they come available. One of the things we want to do is looking at historic core and doing the hyperspectral work on that. And what that does is it not only gives us an idea of some minerals and the mineralogy, but also the alteration levels. And this is a key ingredient to the porphyry systems. Where are you in the system as determined by what kind of alteration you have? So that's key for us to get that done. And that's high tech stuff. And we're looking at, everybody's talking about AI. Most people are looking at it at the macro level. They've got, a regional area. They're trying to sift in where do they drill and so on. But we're looking at it more perhaps on a micro or nano level, where we can specifically look at our rock samples and our core samples and get all that information together and use some AI to determine where the best place to drill and are we in the right spot for drilling and so on. So we're going to work on that as well this year. So, some good technical work, get on the ground, do some drilling, do some ground truthing, and we'll be set for 2024. I think there's lots of good news to come out.
Jeff, you and your team have put out a very detailed corporate update on 2023 and plans for 2024. We would always encourage our viewers to go do their due diligence, go to your website, obviously read the new press release, look at each of the projects, and of course, sign up for your press releases so they can stay up on news and reach out to you and your team should they have questions. Where would you like to direct our viewers? What's the website?
I would invite everybody to come and visit us on our website at www.cascadecopper.com, and certainly email or give me a call directly. The numbers are all there. The emails are all there. Just sign up for a newsletter, and then you get our press releases and get up-to-date news on what we're doing. So look forward to either talking or seeing people.
Jeff, it's always a pleasure talking to you and seeing you. I look forward to seeing you and the team at PDAC this year.
Yes, absolutely. Just to let your viewers know that we will be there for 4 days at the Securities Exchange at booth 2805. So come by, say hello.
Again, I look forward to hosting you on in the next 7 months where we can talk about more progress and news that you and your team have accomplished. To everybody watching and listening, you've been hearing from the President CEO of Cascade Copper. It is Jeff Ackert, and the company trades under the symbol CASC. Jeff, thanks once again for your time.
Thank you, Anil. It was a pleasure talking with you today.
Cheers.